My name is Angela Turner Drees, and I'm from Birmingham, Jefferson County, Alabama. And I'm here to talk to you today about the corruption that's going on, or that was going on, in the family courts of Jefferson County, Alabama. It's a very serious matter, and it's affecting hundreds of thousands of children in Jefferson County. Here's my story. I graduated from the Cumberland School of Law in the spring of 1993 and practiced civil litigation as a trial attorney for approximately a decade before I became pregnant with triplets. My husband at the time, who was also an attorney, and I decided that I should stop my career and stay home to take care of our children. He was just about to make named partner in his law firm and assured me that we would have plenty of money even without my income. After 2 years being retired, I discovered that he was having an affair with another lawyer who was also married at the time, and they were meeting secretly at out-of-town meetings in continuing legal education conferences. In January of 2005, he moved out of our home, cut off all funds to me and our triplets, and left me with no means to provide for myself or our children. I filed for a divorce. Our divorce was final in 3 months, after we had been married for almost 9 years. We settled on a joint custody arrangement with a very modest child support obligation for him, even though he was a named partner, and enhanced visitation for him because it was important to me that the father of my children stay involved in their lives. He also assured me at the time that he wanted to work this out with me, and then I also began searching for a job. About 9 months after our divorce was final, my ex-husband married the woman with whom he was having the affair, and now they have a child together. While all of this sounds extremely normal up until this point, what transpired next represents a nightmare of unprecedented proportions, and it is the reason for why I'm here today and telling you my story. After he remarried, my ex filed a petition against me to take full custody of our children. He needed a strategy that would assure his winning of custody, so he devised a series of events with which he was able to manipulate the court system and the judge who presided over our case at the time, Judge R.A. Ferguson, Jr. Judge Ferguson is no longer a judge. During the course of discovery, it was uncovered that not only had my ex-husband lied about the affair, he had also misrepresented his income to the court in our initial divorce settlement. He stated to the judge at the time that he made about $120,000 a year when he actually made well over $200,000 a year as a named partner in the firm of Norman, Wood, Kendrick & Turner, a prominent Birmingham law firm. Since his child support obligations for triplets would have been substantial at that rate of pay, he clearly needed to win custody of the children because then not only would he not have to pay child support himself, but I would be obligated to pay him. He thus hired longtime domestic insider Richard Vincent to get the job done. Mr. Vincent has bragged to my previous attorney that he's made well over $250,000 in legal fees on my case alone. He has also since retired from the practice of law. Based on this win, my ex-husband Kyle Turner has saved literally millions in child support obligations to our triplets. At first, during the custody proceedings, all of the typical allegations were made against me. When my ex stated to the court that I was mentally unstable, I was ordered to undergo 5 separate psychological evaluations. Each of them indicated there was absolutely nothing wrong with me, but the total bill that I had to pay for these 5 separate psychological evaluations exceeded $5,000. When that did not work, my ex asked the judge to appoint counselors and a guardian ad litem, who's an attorney to represent the children, so that a case could be potentially made against me that I was uncooperative. Now, while I certainly was not inclined to have a close personal relationship with my ex-husband after the affair, I complied with any and all requests for meetings, counseling, even anger management, and other things ordered by the court. Thus, this strategy also failed to show that I was an unfit parent. Finally, I had begun dating someone myself and was later engaged. My ex-husband and his new wife, Sarah Bottleson Turner, also an attorney and now an official intervener in my case, finally hit pay dirt. My ex-husband, Kyle Turner, under oath and on numerous occasions testified that my new husband, Dr. Drees, who worked for the governor of the state of Alabama at the time, was, quote, convicted of domestic violence against his ex-wife and his child. Based on this conviction, They asked that the custody of my triplets immediately be changed from me to my ex-husband, Kyle Turner. Under Alabama law, when domestic violence is proven in a case, it is automatic grounds for change of custody. There was one small problem, however, with this strategy. It was a lie. None of it was true. My new husband, Dr. Drees, was not only never convicted of domestic violence, he was never arrested for domestic violence, there was never any trial for domestic violence, there was nothing along those lines of what my husband had said, my ex-husband had said under oath in court. In fact, in his own divorce case, my husband, Dr. Drees, was awarded full sole and legal custody of his own 3 children because his ex-wife was committed to a mental institution. Regardless of this, and using this lie, however, my ex-husband, Kyle Turner, along with the assistance of his lawyer, Richard Vincent, won full custody of my triplets and finally claimed the victory after 2 years in court. The win represented quite a substantial windfall for my ex-husband, as well as the ultimate opportunity to punish me forever, taking my children away from me. Since I was also an attorney, the judge, Ferguson, ordered me to pay the exact same amount of child support to my ex-husband, Kyle Turner, even though I was a stay-at-home mom and had been out of the workforce for almost 4 years. Needless to say, I quickly became unable to pay this amount and started to fall behind in this obligation. This failure was now used to hammer me, and my bank accounts were cleaned out, my wages were garnished, and my clients were harassed and threatened with subpoenas and other documents to appear in my custody case. This also guaranteed that I had no funds left with which to fight for my children in court. In the meantime, my new husband and I, Dr. Drees, through our own lawyers and to the tune of thousands of dollars, filed numerous motions, pleadings, letters, and even lawsuits to try to correct the false conviction statements made by my ex-husband and his attorney, which resulted in me losing custody. After 13 separate attempts, Judge Ferguson finally corrected the record by stating that Dr. Drees was only found guilty of domestic violence but was not convicted. While this was a slight improvement over the full-blown conviction for domestic violence used to change custody, it still was not true. Dr. Drees had never been found guilty of domestic violence or anything else. There was never an arrest warrant put out for this. There was never a trial. There was never a record. We even had the white-collar crime division of the Birmingham Police Force verify that my new husband, Dr. Drees, had no criminal record of any kind. If he had been convicted of domestic violence, there would have been no way for him to maintain sole custody of his 3 children. Regardless, no one listened to any of this, and the legal bills kept piling up. We later sued Judge Ferguson in federal court for violating my civil rights, as well as the lawyers Kyle Turner, Sarah Turner, and Richard Vincent for lying under oath. We further reported the lying lawyers to the Alabama State Bar Association, local district attorney, and Alabama Attorney General. When the matter began being investigated by these outside sources, including the FBI, Judge Ferguson wrote an official order stating that even though he had to change his order based on the false evidence presented to him by my ex, he found that the perpetrators, quote, did nothing wrong. As a result, no prosecutions could be made, and all bar complaints were summarily dismissed and all investigations abandoned. At the same time, however, a bar complaint was filed against me for suing a judge, suing lawyers, and generally exhibiting, quote, conduct unbecoming of an officer of the court. I was offered a plea bargain by the Alabama State Bar Association, which indicated that if I pled guilty, this would all, quote, go away, and maybe I would get to see my children again. I did not plead guilty, but continued to act as a whistleblower against this judge and the 2 lying attorneys. That is why I'm here today, because this has to stop, or it will continue not only against me and my children, but against all Alabama citizens and children. Because of my actions in attempting to expose my ex-husband, his lawyer, and the judge who protected them, I have lost all contact with my 3 children. I have not been able to see them, speak to them, phone them, or even send them anything in over 4 years, even though 5 separate psychological evaluations show that there's nothing wrong with me, I have no criminal record, and I have done nothing wrong. My only sin, I suppose, are my actions in attempting to expose the corruption in my case and the other cases in the Alabama domestic court system. I've received numerous death threats and have suffered severe retaliation because of my actions, but I do not intend to back down. Just like the molesting cases in the Catholic Church and also the recent decision in the case involving the Penn State coach, the only way this type of behavior stops is if it is exposed. In December 2010, and under mounting pressure, my ex-husband and his lawyer finally confessed that they had lied to Judge Ferguson, but claimed that they had, quote, made a mistake and meant no harm. When my case goes back to trial this December, my ex-husband will be placed under oath, and his lying under oath to win this case will be proven in open court. The crime of perjury in Alabama is a felony. It carries a minimum sentence of 1 year and a day and a maximum sentence of 10 years in state prison. There has been an enormous amount of retaliation against me, my family, and my children for my efforts in exposing this case. My professional career has been ruined, my children have been completely removed from my life, and I continue to get threats and penalties against me, both physical and financial. As an officer of the court and former attorney, however, I have given an oath to uphold the law, honor the United States Constitution, and protect citizens from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Lawyers and judges lying under oath and manipulating court proceedings is a grave and serious threat to the citizens of this country, and it must be stopped. In Alabama, it is literally a question of life and death. People, citizens, and children are literally dying in our court system and as a result of our court system. I am doing my part to expose what I can and what is happening to the United States Congress, and I would urge them to investigate the case of Turner versus Turner involving Kyle Turner, Richard Vincent, and former Judge R.A. Ferguson, Jr. of Birmingham, Alabama.